Hello, everybody in Moltrap in the house. We are seeing a very interesting matchup here going about to start. Pure, Sea.Pure versus the winner of the first series, which will be revealed very soon. So if you have not watched that series or do not care if it is spoiled, then or if you haven't watched the series or it's too late. Here we go. Special is the winner of the first set, beating Luxury in some nice games, and he's going to be facing Pure, and he's going to have his work cut out for him. Pure is definitely on a higher level than Luxury right now. Definitely a force to be reckoned with. Pure has been basically, what am I trying to say? Oh, there's Luxury's Cheerful, by the way. Anyway, Pure has basically been one of the mainstays for WemadeFOX lately. Unfortunately, Pure is on WeMade. I think he'd be doing even better if he was on a higher caliber team. But basically, Pure has been one of the few players winning games for WeMade these days. Someone apparently is a fan of the Protoss. And he's actually, I would consider, in fact, Pure to be one of the top Protosses right now. Bisu, I would not even count in those. AKA Failsu. Failsu has been eliminated from Star Leagues, and he's actually taken a break. He's on a break right now from this team. He's not on the roster for this month because he's been playing a little bit poorly. So he's going to take a break and chill out a little bit and get his head straight, get his head screwed on straight, and then come back to StarCraft a little bit later, probably. Unless he's just... There's been a little speculation that he's just spending all his time playing SC2 beta, and so that's why he hasn't been practicing SC1. Anyway, that'd be cool if Bisu switched to SC2. A lot of people have been asking also about, what's going to happen with the pro leagues with SC2 and all that stuff. And I've given my opinion a few times in interviews and what have you. But basically what it boils down to is, I wish I knew what that stuff said. It's probably like different units, or I don't know. Basically what it boils down to for me is I believe that they're going to make a slow switch. They're not going to be able to eliminate SC1 tournaments immediately. It'll be a slow switch over to SC2, but eventually it will switch to SC2, and SC1 will go by the wayside eventually. That's my opinion, at least. We'll see what actually happens, of course. But Artosis actually interviewed the coach of WoongJin, and the coach of WoongJin basically said the same thing. So there's some credence for you. Anyway, we got Factory going down here. TVP action going on. I was hoping for some more Zerg, but it's actually a little bit more interesting to see Special. See what he has. See what he can dish out against Pure. Pure has been winning a lot of games lately. He really cleaned up his MSL group, or his MST group rather, and so he's been doing nicely. Then he's got one SCV on. Special has one SCV on gas now, so. I completely forgot to mention a fast Nexus, by the way, from Pure. He went for a fast Nexus, by the way. In case you didn't notice, there's a Nexus there now. In case you missed that. Anyway, so it'll be kind of interesting to see what Special can do against a player like Pure, who's been playing really, really well lately. I do expect Pure to come out of this series ahead and move on to the OSL, and it'll be really nice to see him move on. Oh yeah, like I was. Oh, that's what I didn't finish saying. Pure, he's basically one of the top Protoss players right now. You've got your Stork. Best is doing good. Cal's doing good. Jangbi, I don't know. But so Pure is actually, because he's doing well, he's been playing extremely well. He's kind of one of the top players. Top Protoss players these days, because he's been doing extremely well, and he hasn't really had any solo performances. Hasn't done terribly well in any solo leagues, is my point, but I would still consider. I mean, I think he's gonna break out, so that's why I'm hoping he can get into the OSL round of 16 and really show us what he can do in that kind of a situation. Let me see here. Hold on. Who was the other guy I was thinking of? Violet, that's the other guy I was thinking of. Violet has been doing extremely well. I would consider him to be above most Protosses as well, and Pure's down in like the number 4 or 5 slot in the Protosses for me right now. So it looks like I'm not exactly sure here what's going on. He's got one factory into command center, but he hasn't been making a lot of Marines. So maybe he's not doing any kind of FD push here. I mean, I guess he didn't have to because he eventually scouted and saw that Pure had gone for a fast Nexus, so he knew that he didn't have to. He didn't have to try to get a bunch of things out and do an FD push, and he wasn't gonna have to worry too much about defending against any kind of early Dragoon pressure. So it's kind of an unusual game here, kind of a non-standard game, and Pure just putting out a pylon over there just to scout to see if anything gets dropped from behind. This is excuse me, this is the Great Barrier Reef, which is basically El Nino. If you saw the map El Nino, it's this map. But I guess they probably had to redesign it from scratch actually, but it's basically just El Nino with a different tile set. So it plays exactly the same as El Nino. You've got this ring around the outside, and El Nino, of course, was very much like Outsider. So there's several maps that have this style of kind of a ring of bases around the outside, and so you can often sneak things in from behind by going through the minerals in order to try and get a scout in or something like that. And we are seeing some very fast Arbiter tech is what it looks like. Very fast Arbiter tech is what it's seeming like. So they're basically they're like playing a no rush 20 game here. They're they're by the way, I guess there might be some people that aren't familiar with that term, especially back in the day. People that weren't that good at StarCraft on BattleNet would play no rush games. Let's say NR15 or something like that, which basically meant you weren't supposed to attack for 15 minutes, and it was just a way for newbies to feel a little bit more confident that they weren't just going to get stomped in the first 5 minutes. They could have time to build up their army and that kind of thing. And of course, if you were any good, you either rushed. Well, a lot of people were jerks and rushed anyways, but if you were any good, you could use that 15 minutes to get like 4 bases. And yeah, like Psionic Reaver was actually talking about how in StarCraft 2 they have these novice level maps which have rocks in the way. So they're basically forced no rush maps where there's rocks in the way, and you have to break down the rocks to get out of your base. So it kind of forces you not to be able to attack for a while until you have enough forces to break down the rocks effectively. So he was talking about how he played on one of those maps because he's actually a good player. He just expanded twice, got 3 bases, and then by the time their opponent moved out and destroyed the rocks to move out with their base a little bit, Psionic had just a crap ton of everything and just ran them over. So that was So anyway, just to explain the no rush term, I guess StarCraft 2 is they're making a lot of efforts to try and make it playable for noobs and for experienced players, and so far they're doing a pretty good job of it. It still remains to be seen if it's going to be as competitive as StarCraft 1, basically as hard as StarCraft 1, but it's definitely a game that competitive players, that high-level players really have a challenge against each other, and that low-level players are still able to have fun and still able to play against each other, and also have kind of a challenge there. So that they've succeeded in that as well, at least.